was kind of tipped off, and, you know, sure enough, looked down the window, and there's 2 or 3 of them literally standing there with baseball bats.
Welcome back. Now we all remember the ruthless way Simon Cowell treated some of the contestants on Pop Idol. Oh, he did, didn't he? Well, now he's working on an American version of the show, but the transatlantic journey doesn't seem to have mellowed him at all, does it? Good morning, Simon.
How are you?
I'm very well indeed. How are you?
Very well indeed, thank you.
It's good to see you.
So you've been upsetting the Americans?
I wouldn't say upsetting them. Actually, no, I have
Well, I would say... No, here's a quote.
You hired 2 bodyguards.
Yes, and also, here's a quote. This is the first thing Simon said when he arrived in America. So one of the first auditions, he barged in and said, "I'm from Britain. You know Britain. We used to own your country."
Well, so I'll give them a few history lessons.
Talk about winning friends and
It's a really good way to endear yourself to the Americans.
They needed a reminder. Now, the trouble was, we were in Los Angeles at the time, and it was a bit flat, I thought, in the morning. And the trouble with LA is that there's so many people who go to auditions all the time there that they're so used to just to walking in and walking out. And I thought, well, sod that. Let's see if, you know, we can wind them up a bit. So in the interval, there was 1,000 people there, so I introduced myself, and as I said, hello, you don't know me, blah, 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 blah. And just as a reminder, we used to own your country.
At which point they started chanting USA,
they do the
USA.
Whole, yeah, they do the whole USA thing, yeah. And it was great after that, and I used to do it every morning before the audition.
So when they came in, they automatically were already kind of bristled by you.
And that's what you need, because you need them to raise the game a bit. And if they're flat, they don't do themselves any favours. So really, I was doing it to help them.
Yeah. So it becomes wallpaper television, doesn't it? If you're just saying, "Oh well, thank you very much, you're not what we're looking for."
Couldn't agree with you more. And plus, I wanted them to answer back more. And I have to say this about the Americans: when they answer back, they answer back. I mean, you actually can't shut them up.
Hence the reason you've had to hire two bodyguards.
Well, it was slightly exaggerated.
What, it's only one
Just one bodyguard.
No, I didn't actually hire any. The TV company hired some. When we went to New York, it all kicked off in New York. They got really, really stroppy. And I was critical to some people, and they were waiting for me outside with baseball bats.
No, seriously?
Yeah, they really were.
Really?
Yeah.
What, the people that had actually auditioned?
Yeah, the people who'd auditioned. They'd really taken it seriously. And these were guys who used to be in boy bands.
So what did you actually... Can you remember what you said to them?
Oh, Jane, you know, who knows, you know.
Just another person
But
I've
was it scary
insulted.
then? Were you scared?
Well, I wasn't scared as such, you know, but... you just think, well, this is a completely different climate to England. But having said that, I think if we were to do I thought that was you. If we were to do a second series of Pop Idol, I think the same thing could happen here, because I think people would want to make a name for themselves.
What's the standard like over there, Simon?
The bad are worse, I mean, really bad, and I think the good are better. I think particularly the girls.
Because in America, everyone's taught that they have it's that whole thing, isn't it, that anyone can become president of the United States.
Yeah.
And it's like anyone can be famous. So I think you do get an awful lot of dreadful people, and no one's actually took them to one side and said, look, forget it. You can't do it. You know, they're taught this self-belief.
Well, without question. I mean, it is suspending your disbelief. And as you say, their parents and their friends, whatever, they told them they're great. And in America, there's no sense of irony. I mean, a lot of people like the YMCA got in England, you know, there's a sort of a glint knowing that they're absolutely dreadful. In America, that does not happen.
Well, she's done OK. She's in the TV ad with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good for her.
So that's brilliant, isn't it?
But it's there's definitely a different kind of sense of humour thing.
Oh, totally, yeah. The other judges are different as well, aren't they?
Yes.
Because, I mean, even Pete Waterman would chip in sometimes with "you are terrible."
Oh, yeah, no, Pete was fan, and I miss Pete a lot, actually.
Yeah.
But
who's Pete's equivalent out there, then?
There isn't. I mean, there's anywhere in the world who's equivalent. There's only 3 of us over there, and there's Paula Abdul.
Oh, yeah, I remember her.
And she's nice.
She's choreographer now.
Lovely.
Oh, right.
And,
as in too nice to do the job?
No, she's actually... I think... I've got to be careful here. I think...
Oh, go on.
I break the habit of a lifetime.
Sorry, she's a bitch. When you've had success in America, I mean, they really do become divas. And if they don't get their own way... I mean, I'm being unfair. I mean, she can be nice, but she can also be horrific, to be honest with you. Yeah. And when they have a tantrum, boy, do they have a tantrum.
So the show launches on the 11th of June.
Yes.
I think in the States. So when's the finale? When will we know who the winner is?
I think it's around about the end of August, beginning of September.
Exactly the same format?
No, it's slightly less. We've got about 5 or 6 shows less, so we've cut it down to 30 rather than 50. and then it goes from...
So the audiences in the States haven't actually, the television audiences haven't actually seen you yet, so you're still quite safe to walk around the streets at the moment, are you?
Well, they've seen a few previews, and I think it's been on shows like Entertainment Tonight and stuff like that.
Yeah, it has, because one of the critics said he's just, this is a quote about you, another one, he's just another pompous know-it-all from across the pond. I hope the show is a flop so he can get on the next plane out of here and he can take that Anne Robinson with him.
A new fan already.
Yes, yeah.
So are you going to do all those kind of Letterman and Larry King shows when it takes off?
Well, I think, you know, if it takes off and if you're asked, then yeah, I mean, it'd be funny. Yeah.
So when I was just fascinated by these guys with the baseball bats waiting outside. So they kind of intercepted you, the security guards intercepted you. You didn't actually come face to face with these guys?
I was about to go down to a lift because we had to go downstairs, and the guy said I wouldn't go down if I were you. Why? In fact, I think some other people knew, and I think they were quite happy for me to get beaten. And I'm serious.
Paula Abdul being one of them.
Well, who knows? But I was kind of tipped off, and, you know, sure enough, looked down the window, and there's 2 or 3 of them literally standing there with baseball bats.
Scary.
Yeah. And that's the way it is over there.
But they hadn't confronted you actually in the audition?
No, I mean, there were 1 or 2 confrontations, but I think, to be honest with you, Jane, it was much more kind of shock at the time. You know, I mean, when we spoke to them, they'd never been spoken to this way before. And it's not being sort of horrible for the sake of it. It is just saying what you feel at the time, you know, which is your rubbish most of the time.
What's one of the worst ones that springs to mind?
There were so many. There was a guy in New York who sang a version of I Believe I Can Fly, which is beyond belief. And then there was a guy who came in dressed like Clark Kent, and I'll try and explain what he sang.
Clark Kent in the suit or Superman?
No, no, Clark Kent in the suit. But before he sang, he got down on one knee and he said, "Can I take my tie off and wrap it around my head?" I said, "Yeah, do whatever you want." So he got down on one knee and he said, "I'm going to be unique and I'm going to be different." I said, "Fine, what are you going to sing?" "My version of Sweet Carolina by Neil Diamond." Well, he sang a version of Sweet Caroline, which he interspersed with Vietnamese war footage. So it was like, "Sweet Caroline, hand grenades, 3 o'clock," threw himself over the floor. What the hell is that? It's, well, you wanted someone to be unique. And we actually dragged this guy out the audition room because he wouldn't leave. We had to drag him out.
So if we come back across this side of the pond now then, Gareth and Will, doing very well.
Yeah.
And how are you getting on with those guys at the moment?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm really, really happy. I think it was a great result, you know, the 2 of them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It was the right result, do you think?
I actually do, yeah. I mean, you know, there was a lot of stuff, you know, in the papers, started, of course, by Jane's newspaper, Dominic, Gareth Gate, you know, that we had come up with this weird plan to work harder on Gareth than we had Will, or that we favoured Gareth. I mean, I did favour...
Or you would have preferred Gareth.
I did favour him in the competition, and I always said that to Will. But once we'd signed the contracts, business is business, and absolutely 100% no one is getting more favouritism. I'm personally working more on Gareth, and the other Simon is working more on Will in terms of the albums.
But they're different acts now, aren't they? Do you think they're going to kind of evolve into different artists?
I really do. And as I've said to the 2 of them, you know, the most important thing for us as a record label is to make sure that we cross that important line, which is the second Pop Idol show. Because if we can have them keep them having hits after the second show, then we've done our job.
They're then stars in their own right.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what it's all about.
Do you think it's important for them, Simon, to write their own material? Or
No.
No.
No, because I think, look, ironically, Elvis Presley's going to be #1, I think, this week.
Yeah.
He never wrote one
Or Sinatra.
Exactly.
A lot of them get a co-writing credit and they've written the word "the."
Yeah.
Well, it's like
but
your column,
like,
you know, you don't write it. But
Oh, very funny.
What?
I write every
but it's
single
still a
word.
good column.
And I'll tell you what, you're going to be my lead next week. I've just decided. I'll write it as soon as I come off
I
air.
take it back, she writes every
Have you
word.
got your bodyguard?
But seriously, I wanted to ask you, because you've been in the music business for years and years and years, and this isn't an act. I know that, you know, all your life through that you've told people categorically whether they're any good or not, you know. You're being yourself on those programmes, but has it been a shock to you quite how much of your own life has been put under the microscope because of it?
Well, I think if I was 23 and I'd have done this, then I would have been shocked. But as you say, I've been working in the music industry for years. You know, I've had John for donkey's years as well. And when you've advised artists all your life as to what to expect, then of course it's no surprise to you that if you go on TV and you open your gob, you know, you're going to cause problems.
But advising
yourself.
people's one thing and seeing their name in the papers, but it's quite another seeing your own, isn't it? And particularly sometimes if you know, it's something to do with your sex life, which of course we've read loads about of you.
And Jane, you know, but again, I mean, you have to expect it. You know, I was reticent about doing the show in the first place because you know, I had a hunch that, you know,
that's how it would be.
It could be like that, yeah. So, you know, everyone plays a role, I suppose.
But it has its upside as well, doesn't it?
God, yeah. I mean, if anyone who says they don't like this, being in the papers, blah, 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 well, fine, well, then go and work in a bank or something. I mean, it's dead simple, you know? There's more ups than there are downs. It's not perfect.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.